testimony to sing this one. Look somebody in the face and say, can't imagine what I'm going through. God did it. God did it. I can't take credit for it. God did 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 it. Pastor Keith, I'm so grateful. It's my story. It's my story. Baby. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, can't imagine everything I've gone through. Say it, let you know. God did it. God did it. God did it. God did it. I don't look like what I look like when I'm coming. Yeah. Hello. Now turn this around to me. Good evening, everyone. Wanted to tune back in on tonight and just to share with you. We all have a story, right? We all have a story in life. If you're living, you have a story. So wanted to come on tonight. I didn't blog today and didn't really blog yesterday, but wanted to come on to just share some key things. I know this month is Domestic Violence Month, as well as Cancer Month, as well as ADHD awareness. So just wanted to touch on some things with domestic violence on tonight and just start with that. And sometimes, domestic violence doesn't have to always be something that happens between two people, right? I want to introduce myself. I am Natasha Allen, owner of Chocolate Mobile Designs and co-founder of Wise Women Builds. So I wanted to come on tonight. I found this cute little box today at the store, and it says, "My story is just beginning." So, I played the song of "You Don't Know My Story." So we all have a story. We all have been through some things in life. And when I thought of this box on today, I said, what could I share with someone of my story that could be a blessing to someone? Because my goal is each and every day is to wake up to be a blessing to someone in some type of way. You just never know what someone is going through, that what you have gone through can be a blessing to help someone else. So in the midst of Domestic Violence Month, a lot of times we struggle with things within inside ourselves, and we can self-internal abuse our own selves, right? With our thoughts, with our way of thinking, and things of that nature. So wanted to come on and just share, in life of just growing up in Baltimore, living in East Baltimore, in the heart of East Baltimore, a drug-infested neighborhood where I could have turned out to be anything. And I look at all the people and the young people that I used to play with and used to hang out with in the midst of growing up. I could have been a statistic of my society, right? Grew up with two parents in the household, wonderful parents, both work. We did things growing up and things like that. And always went to church. Always was, one that went to church. And then as we get older, we begin to stray as teenagers, right? You begin to stray. And you get into relationships and things of that nature as well. And in the midst of growing up, you experience some things. Mama tell you some things to stay away from. Daddy tell you some things, and grandparents. And people pour into you. And then, as teenagers, we want to do whatever it is that we want to do. But, growing up, even looking at my little one, of you struggle with inside yourself with, a domestic thing, and with inside of yourself of trying to find your identity, trying to find who you are, going through some different things, self-judgment, just all the things and all the different emotions that you go through. And so sometimes even as adults into our adult years, we still struggle with some things with ourselves. And sometimes it doesn't take for someone to beat and batter on you. Sometimes it can just be the internal fight that we go through. And not saying that, you keep living that things you're not going to go through, because we go through tests and trials and tribulations and things like that. And they make us who we are today. And we go through things with other people that other people have inflicted on us. Forever, domestic violence doesn't always have to be something that someone put their hands on you It could be something that's verbal and things of that nature. So as you go through life every day, right? Every day, you know, you become the person that you are today, that when you look in the mirror. And sometimes you have to look in yourself in the mirror, and sometimes you be like, you know, wow, the old me would have done this, the old me would have done that. And you see your growth of things that God has brought you through. Now, another thing is, as you get wiser and get older, you also realize the things of looking back over your teenage lives, right? The teenage you and how you was. Verbal abuse is the hardest to come back from. That is so true. So true. So, grew up in like I said, a wonderful, household and things like that. Got into some mishap relationships and things like that. So of going through all of these things, and I look at this box as a toolbox. And you go through a lot of things going through your life and going through your journey of life of, people talking about your skin complexion, if you're too dark, and dark girls are not this and dark girls are not that. So, you go through different things like that. You go through of, not sure if you're going to fit in. Especially us with ladies. I'm too fat, I'm too this, and I'm too short for this, and no one's going to accept me. So all through life, we go through all these different things. So, of going out tonight and having dinner with my daughter, of divas over dinner, is what I called it. If you checked out my last scope, we went out to dinner, and just sitting of like, what can I share on Periscope tonight that could help someone, of different things that I've gone through. Of thinking, I'm not going to fit in. I'm not the cool girl. Yes, we need to uplift each other. And that is so true, And as you get older, and I sit and I listen to my daughter and the conversation on tonight of the different things that these children go through, even in school, right? And just think of some adults even go through that, of the bullying. And it doesn't have to always be with putting your hands. And that's a form of, domestic violence, of the kids are going back and forth and saying stuff to each other. So we even go through that and gossip and different things with that as being adults. So I was like, wow, just reflecting and just on the ride home and just keeping the lines of communication open with her, of just reflecting back over life, of, of family members that may think that you're better than them because you grew up with two parents, right? That's no doing of your own, of growing up with two wonderful parents that loved each other for years and years and years, right? So, we go through different things of the naysayers or what people say, and those things become piercing, even with coworkers, of different things that happen on the job, and even church hurt and different things like that. There are forms of like violent attacks, and it really, hurts people, and people don't realize that. So it's different things. And as I thought about it, that is a great that you keep the lines of communication. Yes, it's very important. Very important. I always like to keep the lines of communication open, and you should do the same with your child. Keep the lines of communication open. That way they you want them to be open with you no matter what. And that way, when things come up against them or people use different words, that the devil can't have your babies, because you done prayed over them, and you done kept the word of God around them, and they know they're going to stray. Because trust me, I strayed as a youth. But getting back on topic of, you as you grow and different things, they hit your shell, right? And when you were younger and when you were growing up, things pierced your shell, and which is your body, what I'm talking in reference to. And so you began to develop a story, right? Because mom and dad, they protected you all through your life, right? So you go through these things, and part of my story, in the midst of becoming into being a mom, I had suffered with postpartum depression. Didn't even know that I was going through that in the midst of carrying my daughter, and went through postpartum depression like really, really bad. And it was like really bad. It was in like a verbal relationship that was just verbal abusive, and it wasn't a healthy relationship. And the devil can only wear his mask for so long, right? So in this relationship, I mean, wine and dined and, come home to hot smoky towels and, nice things and, just pampering and just a lot of wonderful things. And, when we get into relationships, we just feel that, oh, this is just it. And, they show you all this nice stuff and how a woman's supposed to be treated. So I always, grew up, and my dad always showed us as females in the house of how a woman's supposed to be treated. So in the midst of going through all this, I just was like, wow, I'm pregnant. Was really in denial for quite some time. And it was just some things within inside of myself that I was struggling with. Wasn't really ready to be a parent, but it happened, right? So going through life and going through life and going through the relationship. And, the relationship became very verbal abusive in the midst. And sometimes, a baby don't keep a man at all. None. Or a female for that matter, just because they have one. So, going through and, become a parent. And sometimes you can be a single parent within inside your own household. And growing up, that's not something that I wanted, was to become a single parent. How will my child view me? You have all of these thoughts. So then, yes. So yes, are you really ready? That's the question. Are you really ready? So having her at 6.5 months, right? Having her at 6.5 months, she stayed in the hospital for 2 months. I came home, had high blood pressure and everything, and had to be put back into the hospital myself because my hormones were just all over the place, and preeclampsia and things like that. And if you don't know what that is, that's like high protein in your urine and things like that. So, speed forward, relationship goes, sour, didn't last or whatever. But in the midst, it teaches you to get in tune with yourself. And sometimes, even in relationships or different things that you go through and darts that hit your shell, you begin to, wow, I had a son at 6 months also. Okay. Yes. So 2.5 ounce baby, little baby that, didn't even wear preemie clothes. Yeah. So I truly can understand. Yes. So you begin to absorb all these things, and after a while you get fed up. You get fed up with some things, even with your own self and with others and things that others are doing. So you move on to, my husband just came in, so he's distracted me here. So, you move on and you want better for yourself. You want better for your child. So in the midst, I began to journal and just write things. And sometimes you have to speak to your own self and just begin to just take some self-reflections of things to better yourself. So I'll share with you some things in my toolbox here, that some of the things that you definitely want to do. You definitely want to keep the faith. You want to keep the faith. And all the things that if you do go to church, or if you don't, or you have faith and you believe in something, or whatever your spirituality is, and mine is Christ Jesus alone, and alone it is. So, you want to develop a spiritual connection. And in the midst of when you're going through, even in your darkest moments, you just want to, open up your book and just read. And it may not click with you at that point because you're in your lowest point. And, in the midst, like I said, it's Domestic Violence Month. And sometimes, it's not always of infliction of someone else that someone else put on you. It could be things of your just inner thinking, and your inner voice is speaking, and different things like that.